invested in, so that we can be able to then match up, one, to the middle income status that the president did pride of, but also to be able to compete favorably and not rely heavily on foreign aid and influence for that matter. Which are these sectors? What are the priorities? Again, that's the big question as we wait for Finance Minister Matia Kasaija. Good morning to you, Waiswa.
Good morning, Priscilla.
How are you?
Lovely.
You're lovely?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're lovely, then that means the National Unity Platform is also lovely. There's this whole thing that I want us to start with. The 40 million Ugandan shillings that members of parliament received, that has been, you know, in circulation from yesterday, so that they can be able to be okay with what comes out of the budget reading this morning. Did your members of parliament receive this money?
First of all, I want to state that the party sat yesterday, and we of course had the rumors that there was 40 million shillings that was illegally being given out by the speaker. It is being given out rudimentarily. You go and sign for it. So we got intelligence as a party that some of our members had been hoodwinked into picking this money. Members of parliament, the processes and procedures of them being paid anything, allowances, any stipend they get from government is supposed to be through their bank accounts. That is a format of accountability that is established to understand and avoid the challenges we face in administration. So yes, a few of our members of parliament picked this money. I want to be on national TV and be categorical. We don't sanction this. And the party has taken a position. They have been given 48 hours from yesterday to return this money. By the party president? No, the NUP is not governed by an individual. It is an institution that is always with consensus, and most of these decisions are reached out of consensus. You cannot afford to be a member of parliament representing the National Unity Platform, anchored on people power, and then the core values of what we stand for are left behind. Okay. Therefore, I want to arrest any fears to all Ugandans that the position of the National Unity Platform is that within 48 hours, which I think will elapse tomorrow, members of parliament who had been hoodwinked, mark that word, hoodwinked, by the expertise of the speaker.
Those of them that have been hoodwinked, as you are stating it, what are the reasons they're giving?
The reason I've used the word hoodwinked is because I think they were not familiar with what was happening. Well,
you don't need to be familiar to know what is right and what is wrong.
Yes.
Right? So to take 40 million in the manner that is being offered, we all know that it is
you
wrong.
See, this is an act, this is an illegal act being done by the speaker. The speaker is a candidate of Luzira, and she will be charged for these financial crimes against Uganda. This will happen. It may not happen today because she wields power. It may not happen tomorrow.
So in case that money is not returned in 48 hours,
members
what
of
are the
parliament
resolutions for NUP?
National Unity Platform is a party that can be very brutal against those who go against it. Okay. We are anchored on people power, and I don't think any member of parliament would want to test the wild waters of the people of Uganda.
And in case they push the button far and don't return that money, what will National Unity Platform do?
Even expulsion is on table. Yeah. And don't let nobody think we are mincing with words. Any member of parliament in the next 48 hours who does not come clean from the National Unity Platform will face dire consequences. In fact, not dire, brutal consequences.
But then again, the National Unity Platform is not one that is known to be, brutal. you have always distanced yourself away from brutality.
No, from violence.
Distanced yourself
from
away
violence.
from violence.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Brutal inactions. We have brutal actions.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, coming back to the budget and priorities expected to be delivered.
So to make it a public announcement, if you're a member of Parliament of the National Unity Platform and inadvertently you are hoodwinked to picking the 40 million shillings, I think you don't even have 48 hours anymore. The clock is ticking. Please, let's do this and let's do it right. Okay,
all right. Now, regarding the expected budget to be read by the Minister of Finance, there's, of course, a lot of expectations, but we, over time, are seeing a drop in the interests of Ugandans in terms of the budget reading. Is there a budget, in a way, can it be responsive to Uganda's plight right now?
This budget cannot. This budget cannot, and it will not. In fact, Ugandans should realize that we are going to sink further given the priorities of this budget. I have said, and I've said this everywhere, the effects of COVID-19 are real. The effects of COVID-19 are real, especially in areas where, and countries where money was mismanaged. We mismanaged over $3 billion US. $3 billion US. That is over 10 trillion. Now, that money was mismanaged during COVID. It is not going to come back. Now, look at the 2022-23 budget. You have 48 trillion. 48 trillion. Out of the 48 trillion, Uganda may be able to realize, in the last budget, we realized 20 trillion, but that had not been our target. So in this one, we may realize about 22 trillion. Now, you already have a deficit of your budget by half of what you're supposed to have. Our debt ratio, the international GDP debt ratio is 50%. We are already surpassed 55%. That means you are no longer going to be accessing consensual loans. You're going to be accessing commercial loans. Remember, you already have a challenge of your budget, which you have now to go out for loans. But these loans you're going to get now are not going to be the loans that are consensual, the ones that are ignited by the International Monetary Fund, the ones that are ignited by the World Bank. You're now going to get into money lending and brokerage. That is why you are working with China. Now, it means that you're going to have big interest on those loans because they are commercial loans. Now, there is no way your priorities will be realized when you're having such a conundrum of your own budget. 18 trillion of the 48 trillion, but remember, we can only raise 23 trillion, is going to pay debts. Now, that is about 30% of your budget. It is going to service debts. And of the 18 trillion, you have, that is now international. You don't have the locals who are with areas. And out of this 18, 5 trillion is going to pay interest of the loans that you never used. We have loans we have not used in infrastructure, roads, the roads, that is UNRWA, there is education, there is health, money that has not been used. It is about 4 trillion. Now, this 4 trillion has accrued interest of 5 trillion. You have not used it. And in this budget, you're going to service that loan. And this money has also not been used. Therefore, you cannot meet your economic priorities when you are in such a conundrum. Let me tell you, my sister, if you look at the public domestic areas, these are people. The reason we are having all these financial wars is because we have people who are working with government. They have provided work, they have supplied to government. That is in 4 trillion. That debt is in 4 trillion. Do you know how much money has been passed in the budget? 400 billion. Now, you are paying international those who are demanding you internationally, including 262 billion to Congo for money that was taken by General Saleh, by General Kazini in the plight and the fight of timber in Congo. That money we are paying. But the people who have supplied you government, who are working with you in business, They are demanding you over 4 trillion. Now, that is money that is supposed to be circulated in the economy. Of course, somebody will say that 4 trillion is not verified, but they have also verified 1.4 trillion. Those that are Ugandans and are working with government, the money that has been passed is 400 billion. Now, it means that there will be no money in circulation in the public because, first of all, you do not even have a law for profit repatriation. The laws we have here talk about 49%. But do you know that BDCO has been, they have suspended their payment of the corporate tax among many companies? Now, your corporate companies that are making profits because you have you have a share, you have you have accustomed yourself to getting some money from them in times of crisis like elections, you have to forgive them the corporate tax. Now, what is going to be the financing mechanism where your productivity is very low? In the budget, we have from about 465 billion to 800 billion for State House. That is about 1 trillion. I told you that our budget is 48 trillion. 18 trillion is going to servicing of loans. We have 5 trillion. Now come and listen to the bad news. Genome 7 and his wife, about 1 trillion.
And not being frugal.
Parliament. This parliament of Anita Among that we talked about, this parliament that is doing deals, just to give you the facts, they have increased their money. The reason why Genome 7 said that they had to change, the reason Genome 7 said that they had to change, the reason she said they had to change the speaker of Parliament, and the reason he said he did not support the Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, if I'm very, my memory serves me right, he said there was a lot of corruption at Parliament. That was his statement. There had been a lot of corruption. And that led to Madame Chivirige to be expelled from her job as clerk to Parliament without even remuneration the way she's supposed to get it. Unless now we are witnessing that was a personal vendetta against her. Okay. Because Parliament has increased their budget from 600 billion to 800 billion. And even their own salaries have been increased by the Commission.
We do have a member of Parliament here who can
clarify
that.
She will clarify. Now, that is very extremely unfortunate that at a time when Ugandans are craving, are yearning for the political class, for the bourgeoisie, for those that have been given the opportunity to make decisions on their behalf, they have decided to satisfy themselves. It is a joke where you have a president ask Ugandans to live on cassava, and then they wake up in the morning and for them they can't live on cassava. They are living very lavishly, they are living very luxuriously.
Joining us for this conversation with Alex Waiswa is a woman member of Parliament for Mbara City, Rita Atkwasa. What did you have for breakfast this morning, Madam MP?
It's just my norm. I either take a boiled potato or cassava, and then a fruit and water.
All right.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, and we're looking at deliverables on priorities.
And just that breakfast is above 60,000 in Kampala.
Even if it's above, I mean, she's worth it. It's not the cost of the breakfast that we're looking at here. You know, that's not the important thing.
I'm looking at the cost of living. So if breakfast is 60.
Alex, the cost of living is dependent and relevant. I mean, relative to from one person to another person. That we cannot.
But they have.
Because even you yourself, you've had a breakfast this morning, which cost it costs some money. It will cost some money. But so at the end of the day, what we're looking at is that people do they have the power to actually spend? Do they have the power to actually exercise their right to enjoy
Moses
the things that are available for us in the economy?
Moses can challenge on many things.
As we challenge on that.
But not on nutrition.
We want to first find out the 14 million Ugandan shillings in quote-unquote allowances that were given to MPs yesterday. Have you received yours? Have you signed for it?
That is hearsay, and actually even when I was in Mbarara, I said I wish it had come to my hands. I would be able to share with them, because even when it's true that the salary given to MPs is well known, people have options to create controversies of which they know the public welcomes very highly, and if you assess, it is the trend. There are many things as a new member of parliament that you would read in the newspapers, including my children, and they would be excited about. The 50 million wardrobe, I've never seen it. So it's the same relation to this amount of money they are saying.
Is being distributed.
I have not seen it, and I don't think that is true. Increasing our salaries is not true. Our pay slips, I mean, it's like public information. She can ask. He can ask her colleagues in the know.
There's an increment for you.
Yes, there's an increment, but there's no guarantee that that is coming to my salary, because even as I was paid by the end of this month, nothing has changed. So when you come here and you want to tell the country,
some information.
You want to tell the country that last night, the other night, 2 weeks ago, people received money. I think that is too far-fetched to derail us from the focus of working for the people. Because the culture has been that incite members of parliament against the public, and then you have hulubalu here. We've come out of COVID. And I think every member of parliament is doing the best they can, including...
So you are saying that the 40 million does not exist?
I haven't seen it. Maybe her party members have seen it.
Okay.
His party members. So
he's
speaking from
yes, Alex.
You
a
see,
good point of argument.
I have said, and I want to say it even here, when we are on this national television, the most intelligent people are those who are watching. This is a question that has been set up by NTV, a very professional media outlet. It is a story out there. People are signing for 40 million shillings from the office of the Speaker of Parliament. And this is if she's not aware, this is in appreciation of the supplementary budget that you passed of 193 billion. 77 billion was to go to State House. 87 billion was to go to Karamoja. 20 billion was supposed to go for opening of roads in Karamoja. And then State House took 77 billion. So after that 193 billion, they included 40 million that is supposed to be picked cash from
that your party members have.
Wait. You're a bit late, and it is understandable because of the infrastructure of your government.
Unless you tell me that you have evidence where your NUPU members have got it, I will agree.
Listening is important.
No.
Now, I have said,
I can only listen.
Our members of parliament,
You're
saying that there was an inclusion of that 40 million.
Yeah, if you can tell me that NUPU members have got
I wanted to teach,
I
wanted to teach her that when we say members of parliament salary has been increased, it does not happen with immediate effect. The issues of government are policy. That is why we are discussing the budget.
Okay.
In the budget of Uganda, Madam Rita,
yes,
in the budget of Uganda, Parliamentary Commission has increased your salary. That is why they have shifted your budget. I think as a member of parliament, by now you ought to have read your budget.
I have.
This is
I
the
can
process.
even find
Aren't you aware?
As you have
wait a minute. Aren't you aware, Rita, that in your budget, it has been increased from 600 to over 800 billion? Can you tell Ugandans that you are aware or not?
I am aware, because we need to debate from a perspective of where we've been, where we've come from, and where we are going. You know it very well. When
you are aware they have increased from 600 to 800?
You want me to listen to you, but you don't want to listen to me. And that's where the difference is. When we came to Parliament, the budget was slashed. And even right now, what we had in the past 2-3 years is not what we have. What happened to Parliament budget is like all brutal cuts that happened to all other sectors. Committee work reduced, you know that very well, and many other areas. But the increment now is in good faith. If you put money in government, and as a legislator, with a role of oversight, it is upon us to go and monitor all these projects. But if you put money for implementation and you do not put commensurate money for members of parliament to go and do your role, then we come back here.
So Alex, I'll take it up from here.
Yeah.
In regards to the budgets that we're expecting, yes, members of parliament are catered for, but we need to look at the responsiveness of this budget towards the general Ugandan, towards the person in Barra that you present.
Yeah.
Is it responsive to the needs and the cries of Ugandans in the next financial year?
One of the things that is going to happen to the budget is the continuous effort that has been there to bring people into the monetary economy, but also to bring down the services to the people. And the flagship program is very clear. It's the parish involvement model, where we are saying instead of having money up high, let it come to the lowest.
How much
From the
money has
village,
been given
you come to the parish or the ward, whatever the case may be. And that money that will be allocated there for enterprise development is very crucial for me, for the women and for the youth who are at that level, who are being cheated by commercial banks, to want to be able to access money, to start to make their startups or rejuvenate them. And for me, that is very, very important. Because when you put big figures, you should be able to dissect them to the common person. What are they getting? If
Alex,
these women in the markets, if these women on the streets,
that is going to be implemented, and the money that's going to be dished, because there's a lot of money that's going to go through that particular channel. One of the things that it's going to address is what the president talked about in the State of the Nation address: value addition, especially towards agriculture. Now, away from the politics of it, do you feel that this particular model could actually address some of the challenges Ugandans are facing right now?
First of all, it is very ashamed for a legislature to be here and just thump for increasing their salary and their remuneration, not knowing that doctors are striking and nurses. They are not only striking for remuneration, they are striking for lack of tools to work on people. We have 600,000 pupils who do not sit for P7 because they cannot afford to pay 100,000 shillings for registration of their exams.
it is well known that government pays for that fee.
We were talking about
in universal primary education.
It's the parish model that we are about.
No, these are budgets and people.
Yes, they're budgets.
Now,
but in regards to the parish
model is dead on arrival.
That is your perception.
Because first of all, it is not the first. She may think so. They are not the first. We had the Myoga. We had
Myoga is working.
We had. You have not read the report.
I have. There's a difference between me and you. You want to read the report. I go to the people. I can even take you to Mara City. I will tell you of these groups that got, this is the rate failure, this is the success failure. So if you want to come to the public and you paint a picture.
Kasolo has been on record. I just believe you're not acquainted with facts. And I want to leave that ignorance at that. Honorable Kasolo has been actually on the verge of arresting people because of a Myoga. Some of them. No, even in Barara, some were arrested. I want to agree. You're quick. You're quick. If you read the Suruma report, now that you're speaking, which has also been published alive everywhere, it has spoken to the core of this. General Museveni, when he was speaking at Kololo, he said that the Saleh project had been infested also with thieves. That happened to NADS, that happened to Myoga, that happened to Bonabaga Gawale, and that will happen to parish model. And let me tell you about parish model. Parish, how many people are in a parish and how much money? Wait. Yeah. Now, if it depends, then money cannot be a constant. It depends.
So will the parish
will not work because, you know, when you are 17 million, let me tell you, you cannot give 17 million shillings to a parish, and then it is commanded by a person of National Resistance Movement and another and the team they have brought up. It's commanded
by the government.
No. It is exact. They want somebody from the National Resistance Movement.
May I ask you a question?
No.
Let him first finish.
Now, when they introduce the parish development model, and everybody who's moving around the parish development model, it's about making our citizens busy. I have seen this in 2012. Honorable Chibule, as a Minister of Youth, General Museveni gave him over 500 million in a sack, if
Alex,
you remember.
You have mentioned that this money is being manned by NRM.
Handouts.
But then you do have in the parishes, on
but you see, what I do not agree with
you cannot work. It is exact. They are saying the chairman of National Resistance Movement. But even the money itself, the parish of Lubia, Lubia has over 40,000 people.
Okay, all right.
How are you going to work? How are you going to, which methodology are you going to use?
NRM.
Wait a minute.
We do have representatives
for 17 million
that can be able to speak up for
she may not have the knowledge.
No,
let me finish.
You are not listening to others. is a skill. You can choose to shout, because when we are here, I listen to you. Then you should be able to listen to me. First of all, as a development specialist, when you're launching a program, do you go full blast or you launch? The issues he's raising, issues of discrepancies in population, issues of startups, issues to do the 17 million versus the 100 million. That was the initial investment. But it is well known in this budget, 100 million will go for parish. And all other peculiar issues that will come in, especially critical, to do with variances in population, will be addressed. And that is well known. That has been debated. And even the people, the implementers of the parish model know that. But the question is, can you roll out? And as you go, you improve a program. There's nothing that starts with perfection. The money is going to be given for rollout. What are the expectations, especially in which particular fields or sectors do you see this money is going to enhance the livelihood? This country is zoned in varying different specialities. For instance, what would the women want to work on? Is it handcraft if you come to Mbarara City? Is it going to be issues to do with agriculture? In urban farming, because now that we are the city, or if you talk about Wakiso, or if you talk about artisans. So it depends on what the community chooses to do. What is it works for them? Because as a government, you don't sit here and dictate. What sells in one area does not. When you go to northern Uganda, you will talk about sim-sim. You will talk about honey. And these are different categories of enterprises that people will be able to engage in. But as a government, you can only work for your people. But when Noop is speaking, I listen. I listen because their voice needs to be heard. Okay. But what is very pertinent is that sometimes they only choose that is inciting and forget the underlying progress that has been made. I want to find out from you. You worked and grew up in the women's movement. Yes. Does this budget actually second what the aspirations of women are, especially given the fact that we have been having the Women Empowerment Project, and now it's being merged with the parish model? Does it still cater for the women independently? Of course, I want to. It's now a unison basket. I want to put my voice clear that for us as the women, the priority was to maintain WEP. Even the president knows it, even the minister knows it. But since that wasn't listened to, because they agreed that can they merge this into the parish development model, but the section for the women will remain, for the youth will be able to remain, and how we'll be able to deal with persons with disabilities. That I want to put clear. So because when you look at the success percentage breakdown to yes, it speaks to the percentage breakdown of 30%. Okay. And then I also should state that as the women of Uganda, we still have much to achieve, especially to do in trade and business. You know it very well. Most of them are in small enterprises. Talk about the market, talk about validation without equipment. That voice cannot go silenced. That we would want to see much more. But that aside, we still do work with the government to make sure that the opportunities are put forth. The women are able to grab it. And I can see you see the difference. That is why you see when men are busy talking and talking, we are busy mobilizing the women because they have got to put food at the table. Whereas men negate their duty. A woman, you have a child, you have a sick one, you need your daughter to go to school. You're trying to do everything possible to make sure. So for me, my duty is to coalesce all women. That when this money comes, please, as you've always done in your groups, let's go for this money. Okay. Yeah. All right. Of course, there's so many questions that are coming through from our audience this morning. We want to also find out, in terms of agriculture, we did have the president continuously for 2 financial years now emphasizing on agriculture and value addition and actually how we can milk from the quote-unquote surplus that we have. The PS of Finance previously argued that agriculture does not transform nations, and yet we do have the minister today going to be presenting a budget for us that has no reasonable investment in industrialization. What's your take on that, Alex?
And that is the entire government hoax that we have. The unpreparedness, the lack of blueprint, the economic naiveness that they have shown to us. First of all, they don't all. That is Gobi is the PS to the Treasury. He's a very important person in the planning of our economics. But he's telling you agriculture doesn't work. And it speaks to even what they are doing in the budget. Agriculture has a paltry about trillion. You look at how much classified is over 3.7 trillion. Money that even Parliament doesn't discuss. That is taken in the guise of national security. Let me tell you, every time as a country I see our young girls and boys who have already attained degrees go to the Arab world for work, it is tear-dropping. Because agriculture in Uganda can transform this country. How? Let us have it mechanized. We can only change production when agriculture is mechanized. The rudimentary thinking that members of parliament should give out hose must stop. Because production of agriculture, where we can have as a baseline, is now worldwide supposed to go mechanized. And that is where our priorities of financing must go. What is going to be then after you have had those raw materials, because Gobi does not know that agriculture produces the raw materials. They're talking about the Bidiko. Bidiko is using raw materials from Uganda. What makes paper? It is made, can be grown in Uganda. The point of agriculture is that we must move from the rudimentary thinking that MPs, parliament, they give out hose and they think we shall improve. That is way back. Even in Europe and those other countries, they're no longer using slaves.
Okay.
They have moved. So agriculture can transform this country. We must only improve on our cultivating methodology, on what we are going to cultivate, on the markets of what we are cultivating, the creation of the open market.
Rita, he has talked about
but
those
most
things,
importantly,
but all those things require money,
as I finish,
and they require governmental funding in regards to how they can be implemented, you know, for general use. You look at 2020 to 2021, it was a 3.7%, you know, given to agriculture. In the next financial year, it was 3.9. This financial year, it doesn't look any better in terms of the percentage allocation to agriculture, and yet you want to move agriculture into industrialized agriculture to be able to milk the much amount of money that we can get as a country.
It is very true, whereas you wake up and you don't say, hey, we have transformed. It moves through a process. And for me, I think agriculture still contributes substantively, but also there are areas where we have managed to move. As a leader, coming from people who much get involved in milk, we have come from far. From the days where milk used to be carried in jerry cans, now we do produce pasteurized milk in Mbarara, so that it could be able to improve its long lifespan. And also equally, some of the milk is exported. So there are some pockets we can look at. But I won't stop to emphasize that we can do better than that. We also want to wake up and we find that value addition has taken root from small industries to bigger industries. Can we have Sim Sim, for instance, transformed into something better? The other day we were dealing with coffee, which is still at the table. Can we have this manufactured and processed from
wondering,
here?
why do we have to continuously look at agriculture as the only backbone of Uganda's economy? Can't we look at other sectors?
I think there are other sectors that have been highlighted. You talk about digital transformation, you talk about services, you speak about industrialization. All of those are catered. You talk about human development capacity. All these are highlighted within the NRM government, and it is the basis for which planning is done. And even if you analyze the sectors, all those have been allocated. But because of the competing demands, for instance, if I talk about health, it would be a good thing that the health budget actually catches up with what the Abuja Declaration says, with what the Maputo says.
Health and education combined is giving you a 16%.
Yes, which is very small.
Should be a 10%.
Yeah, which is
now
still
that's
very
contradictory to what should be the focus of this country.
But classified is taking 3.7 trillion.
Yes, Alex.
Classified is taking 3.7 trillion.
There could be some points of convergence. That, for instance, when you look at the security budget, it would be best that is hopeful and reduces. Because right now, when you talk about the security in the country, it would be good to, in this situation, to have some money come to that. I think there, I do agree with him. As a woman looking at how health stands, looking at how education stands, that is a point for improvement. But also in the bigger outlook of the budget, where you have domestic refinancing, I think it is still a big issue. It is increasing increasing when we hope that it should be going down. So all these issues still need focus, and for the government to be able to improve on those lines.
Then a person watching is asking themselves the question, when will they get the focus they need?
After 50 years.
No, I think the focus comes not in a holistic manner, because when you still cannot finance your budget fully, how then do you avoid budget refinancing? How do you avoid domestic borrowing, which is still a strong point? But if we had some of the areas, especially security, reduced, I think it would help us to go in the right direction.
Why, so when will the focus come in?
They will never have focus. They have been here for 40 years. They will never have focus. We have been hoodwinked, and for me, when you saw Genome 7 lie to the nation, fool the nation, hoodwink the nation, that we have moved to middle class, it was appalling. In fact, because this is what we have been working for, the NRA has been working to moving Ugandans to the middle class. Okay. Now, if this is the middle class, where over 60% of the young people are being taken to do basic jobs in the Arab world, where you have such a poor road infrastructure that even when you are domiciled in Kampala, you cannot reach on time for a show. When you have over 20 women dying while giving birth, and that is middle state income, it is a fallacy. And if this is what they were working for us, then it is up to us as Ugandans to rise and know we are actually working up for nothing, because we have poor infrastructure, we have poor health, we have poor education. I have told you how much tedious, how much challenging it is for a person to even register to sit for exams they have done. You saw girls cry.
All right, Alex,
last year.
We want to hear from the people on ground that are actually going through this plight on a daily, and how this budget, is it responsive to them or is it not responsive to them? We do have Bide on ground downtown Kampala, speaking to the wananchi, the day-to-day people that carry out the business and actually do support the commerce chain of this economy. Good morning to you once again, Bide. What's on ground?
Yes, good morning to you, Priscilla. This is the city center where many people are doing the businesses, and of course they're already on the ground trying to do businesses. Some are border riders, some are in shops. They import goods from out of the country, and they pay a lot of taxes to the government, which help the government run its services. That's why on this budget day, I'm here to understand from them, what do they expect from the budget speech? Of course, the budget was approved, but what do they expect from the budget speech that will be delivered by the President, but also the Minister of Finance? Because we know that the President is the Minister-in-Chief of Finance, just delegates to the Minister of Finance for some issues. Let me speak to the people here. Tandikeno mukulu ono ali mu dduuka lye. So what's it here?
Katalaga Enoch.
Suula amasimu gano gava bweru. Oli mu kizimbe kipangisibwa. Budget egenda kusoma olwaleero, gwe kiki osuubira mu budget y'olwaleero?
Tusuubira gavumenti esaleko misolo. Emisolo kaffe ku bintu ebiva ebweru mingi nnyo, tetukyasobola kubeera mu bizinensi. Ate nga bugatta n'amafuta nti galinnya, kugamba yali badde oba ekola efunayo proposinga oil fund, basubsidizinga ku miwendo gy'amafuta, ebintu bino bikole ki bikendeereko. Ekirala balandroad ebizimbe bino baseera nnyo, kugamba muteeka lino gavumenti etuyambeko ebatugambireko ebaregulating bakendeze ku rent abe nga ali affordable. Kugamba naye kati embeera bweri mu kiseera kino si nnungi n'akati.
Bayisiza n'etteeka ery'obupangisa n'amayumba. Nandiro talina kumala gakugoba mu nnyumba mu kizimbe kino ky'opangisa kugira nga akuwadde notice. Ekintu kino kyo kiraba otya?
Ekintu ekyo kirungi nnyo, kubanga ebiseera ebyema bye gabadde olya jabuzi nga takwagadde n'asiringa edduuka lyo. Gamba enkola eyo tebadde nnungi. Kale etteeka eryo tulisanyukidde, lijja tuyamba nga ffe abasuubuzi. Byetusuubira mu bajeti eno mukama wange. Esebo. Katalaga Enoch.
Nnyo Katalaga Enoch kanfune ate ne ku boda riders here. Abavuzi ba boda bagamba ki? Tandike n'omukulu ono. Sebo, olunaku lwaleero budget egenda kusomwa. gwe kiki osuubira nga omuvuzi wa bodaboda kiki kyoyagala kibe nga kikolebwako ng'omuvuzi wa bodaboda?
Ganda wange amanya mpitibwa Jemba Beni naye sina kyenja kugamba kujja budget. Amafuta tukendereza ku mafuta kuba ne bakasitoma be tuvuga nabo baavu, batukendereze ku misolo gy'amafuta kuba ne bakasitoma be tuvuga nabo baavu.
Kati bana tukendezaako ati gavumenti egati kisobola kukendeza ku mafuta kubanga ejja kubanga efiirwa ssente ezidukanya gavumenti.
Anti kati ne olwo tuba tuli kubanga kati olaba essaawa zino natuuse eddaano ssaawa 12 sinavugadde n'omusabazi wadde n'omu, olw'ensonga bonna abajja bannamuza ate nange sijja bavuma nti oba kikuba ssente z'abagambye ziba zino naye z'abaalina naye nga byonna ekireeta ebyo kukendeeza ku misolo gy'amafuta.
Ate ku bintu bye muggula awaka okuza ssente nga mmeka awaka zoga nti zino singa bakendeezaako nja kwongera okufuna ku ssente zenfuna waka bazendekawo waka.
Era byonna byekuusa ku bakasitoma benvuga kubanga wenva eno nga sifunye kiba kitegeeza nti n'ebyokukozesa awaka mba sijja sobola kubituukiriza.
The boda rider says that this government should subsidize on the prices of fuel, taxes on fuel, and that they will be able to at least be able to save some money. Let me speak to this gentleman. Sebo, what's your Sebo?
Sebo nasize bulungi mwasuze mutya. Linnya lyange nze John Kabanda, nze chairman w'abasuubuzi ba New Generation Traders wano mu kibuga Kampala we tusibuka. Tuli basuubuzi abolaba bakolera mu maduuka n'abasuubula ebimu ku birime abamu abali ku nguudo bwe bato kyekibiina kyaffe bekitaba.
Kakati mwe mwakulembera abasuubuzi mu Kampala kiki budget ng'ejja okusoma olwaleero bakyasobola okubaako bye bakyusa mu speech ya president oba ya minister, biki bye basuubiramu gwe nga akulembera abasuubuzi?
Kakati ekisooka kya byonna singa abakulembeze baffe babadde benkanya kala kaseera kano emisolo gyali badde gisalwakoko ku bintu ebimu ebiva ebweru kubanga baproducer abakolera wano ebintu ebimu tebakyasobola kukusa katale nga pulezidenti bwagamba nti ebintu byafuuka byakekwa mafactories kati essaawa zino waliwo abantu demand nene ogeza seminti nga womulaba wa bbeeyi nnyo naye ate bwava bwe tumujja ebweru ne bajjako n'akasolo akakatono ate tuba abantu tebakyasafalinga kugula bintu ku bbeeyi enene bwetyo. Ekyokubiri bajeti eno gyali badde essaawa zino pulezidenti ateekerateekera okusala ku musolo gw'amafuta kubanga bw'osalako ku mafuta n'ogusalako omusolo kiba kitegeeza nti ebintu bigenda kusalikako naye ebintu bya bbeeyi nnyo simanyi oba
omusolo gugibwa ku bintu emusuubula okuva ebweru ate guno ng'ogyeko amafuta gube nga gwogerwako ki?
Kaakati omusolo ogwo sofa bw'otunuulira bajeti eno abasuubuzi ffe emisolo gye tusasula abasuubula ebweru n'abasuubulira wano tugenda contributingako 60% ku bajeti yonna gavumenti gye yeetaaga. Naye kyannaku nnyo tolina bw'ogenda kulaba ssente ziva mu kitavu ng'ate bazongera mu busuubuzi bwaffe buno. N'olwekyo abasuubuzi tetufiiriddwako naye nziramu era okusaba nga nkyakisaba nti batuyambe nnyo abakulembeze baffe naffe tulowoozebweko kubanga ffe tusinga contributinga ekinene ku ssente bakama baffe abo ze muwulira ze beegabanya ne bazirya ne bagejja embuto n'abaana baabwe ne beeyagala. Tusaba abasuubuzi mu bajeti eno tulowoozebweko nnyo ekitenkanika ne bwe tutalowoozebwako ogenda kulaba ng'ensi eseebengerera y'ensonga lwaki olaba nga ne inflation efuuse ekirala essebo. Mbadde njagala kwogerako ku tteeka pulezidenti ku tteeka pulezidenti lye yasayininze eritufuga ffe abapangisa wamu ne bakama baffe ba Land Road. Etteeka eryo abasuubuzi baleke kuba nnyo mu ngalo, kubanga singa gavumenti teriteekesa mu nkola kiba kitegeeza tirigenda kutuyamba wadde n'olunaku n'olumu. Etteeka pulezidenti lye yataddeko omukono ebitundu 80 ku buli 100, ate tusigala ffe tukyanyolwa obuwayiro bungi nnyo bwe bajjeemu nga twabuteekamu. Tusaba etteeka eryo nga bwe yalitaddeko omukono baliteekese mu nkola. N'abasuubuzi bano boolaba mu maduuka gano gonna sebo goolaba wano, tewali wayina tenancy agreement ng'ate baajogeddeko, tewali wayina risiiti ng'ate baajogeddeko. Abasajja balandiroodi b'omu kibuga wano ebizimbe tebisasula misolo, sente zonna ez'emisolo baagala ffe abasuubuzi tube nga ffe tucontributing nga ffekka.
Webale nnyo nawe bali ddala be basuubuzi abali mu Kampala, muli aba boda n'abantu abali mu maduuka. Of course, they are airing out their views about the budget and what they think government should be done to make sure that the economy stabilizes and they are able to do some business and earn out of their sweat. Stephen Imbido, Professor Chuga, handing you back to studio for now.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen Biden. We've had it on ground, ladies and gentlemen. What's the reality on ground versus the politics of the budget reading that we're expecting later on today? In your parting shots, Alex.
It is clear that our economy is not, it is rather blah, blah, blah. It's going down, as the minister had said, because it speaks to what is in the pockets of our people. Our people do not have the purchasing power, and that is what must be worked upon. The taxes are extremely exorbitant and unfriendly to the people. As you have heard, on fuel, it is about 2,000 shillings on fuel. His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the people's president, clearly came out with a very good, and I saw those naive people dismissing it, about the reduction of taxes on crude vegetable oil and flour. In fact, our neighboring countries have already taken suit. I heard Raila Amolo Odinga, the one running for president, very close to Kenyatta, having that as their policy as soon as they take center stage. So it is important that as those of us who are at the helm, who are at the thinking table, who are at the decision-making table, think more about the peasants than the bourgeoisie. It is unfortunate that at this time, Parliament, they have increased their money, as I have said, the office of the president.
Well, we do,
and they have also spent over 2 billion to
Rita,
procure for Anita Among just a vehicle.
And the decision table. In your parting shots,
is to tell all Ugandans that Uganda, as a country, we have overcome many things, and I think this post-COVID recovery will come to pass and people will get back to their businesses. What is important is to embrace government programs, because government serves its people through those programs that are designed. Please go out there, coalesce yourselves, embrace them, and embrace government programs, and you will get, your lives will be able to change.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Alex and Rita, for your deliberations
on.
You've already given
of removing
them.
The
now
dictator?
We want to find out, in terms of the private sector, when it comes to complementing government programs, such as you know, the parish model, of course, the private sector will come in one way or another to lend a hand to be able to dispense all the things that we're going to be read to